Hey guys, how you been? This is Matthias, and this is my new series which I started with the title "Good Old Ways," in which I'm discussing the significance of the American, like Declaration of Independence in the American Constitution, because um, I believe that the American Declaration of Independence, the American and the American Constitution was not just some like isolated political phenomenon, just some normal or one of the like it's not just the usual declaration of independence. Actually, it was, in my view, the culmination of history. That's the final discovery, uh, the final discovery in terms of finding the best social organization principle that human beings have been trying to discover for the past maybe 5,000 and 6,000 years. So it was not just somebody it was not some breakaway state declaring its independence, or it was not uh, some group of people trying to make the best of opportunity, the time, they look at it, the circumstances were favorable, so they they just decided to break away or to declare their independence or to seize the opportunity. Even though it might sound like that, it was rather such a historical departure. And if you are somehow familiar with the writings of Fukuyama, Francis Fukuyama from the United States, it's the end of history. All right, the end of history. Maybe he presented it in a different way, but the American Declaration of Independence of the end of history. Human beings cannot devise, cannot come up with a better political system than the American political system, and uh, that means they for example they say, all right, to separate, for example here, to separate in equal state, equal station, sorry, the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and the nature of God entitled them. The reason they are separating themselves, and no, not the reason, but there comes a time in the process of history whereby a certain nation, a polity, has to decide to disband itself from its association with its former political, group, and form a new state. But that formation is not normal form. It's not just the traditional, the old way. All right, keeping doing keeping the old tradition. Rather, this is a fundamental departure in the so-called a formation of state based on the law of nature is a profound, deep political theory that is based on the political philosophy of John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, to some extent, Thomas Hobbes. And therefore, that was what I was trying to say. And how is that defined is, the idea is the main idea, you can hear about different people and different, political theories, but none of them presented in such a way. All right, always for any other political system than the American kind of something which has got the spirit of the American Constitution or the American Declaration of Independence. Statehood, political power is one way or the other. It can be this, it can be that. It doesn't matter which one it is. Yeah, right. It's always, you'll come to learn that it's always on the principle of might is right. You know, right? You can, I mean, I that's something that you discover if you go deeper, study, look at different historical accounts. You're the fundamental difference between the American political system and all other political systems is, while the American political system believes that political power arises out of the state of nature, every other political system, one way, whether they say it or not, all right, whether they imply it or not. They always are founded on the principle that political power arises from might. All right, might is right. That's like, you are strong, you'd have might, like, you would have political power, you would have statehood. It's always the function of your political power. So, what I'm trying to say is there is a fundamental historical departure, historical, departure, and understanding that is so important, because the American Declaration of Independence is not a normal declaration of independence. Rather, it's the realization of the ultimate, the best ideology. So, how, explaining it is such a, what you call it, it's involved in, you cannot present it, what you call it, you have to, what I'm trying to say is you have to have a new session separate for itself. um, because, there is the concept of the state of nature, there is the concept of, the state of war, there is the concept of, um, the law of nature, and, how these things are interacting with each other, and how you define that is a little bit involved, but whatever the, even though that it's so involved, I guess, they are trying to present it here in such a condensed form. And, as I was trying to say yesterday, they start by saying we hold these truths. Actually, that's not how they start. That's the, when in the course of human events is how they start. Then the next paragraph goes on to say we hold these truths to be self-evident. Yeah, right. So that all men are created equal. You cannot sell this to everybody. That's in, the distinction. You cannot sell this idea to everybody around the world. Yeah, right. As simple as this sound, people don't believe in the idea that all men are created equal. All right. If even, that thing, still some struggle. All right, to accept this principle. For that matter, some Americans have been disfranchising women themselves. All right, this completely negates that idea. All right, understanding the significance of this and incorporating it into your political system and functioning based on that is a different thing, and so many people have found it challenging. So, this idea that, we believe we hold those truths to be self-evident, it doesn't need any proof. It's self-evident. You just have to open your eyes and be willing to learn, be willing to understand, be willing to accept it. It's right in front of you. It's evident. All men are created equal. But, what does that equality even mean? All right. I think, that even has to be qualified, because what does it mean to be equal? Are all people equal, for example? All right. Some are strong, some are weak, physically, if you consider them. Some are smart, some are slow, all right. Some are, rich, some are poor, some are educated, some are uneducated. There are all kinds of difference between human beings. And what does it mean to say all men are equal? All right, we believe we held this truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. What does that equality mean? Is it economic equality? Is it social equality? Is it, what kind of equality are they referring here? The kind of equality that they're talking about here, uh, I don't think even people understand it. All right, like, for example, what's the problem of socialism? It wants to create economic equality. It wants to abolish the, if you understand Marxism, it's all about a class struggle whereby there will, at the end of the day, when they realize the communist utopia, there would be no class division in the society. So they want to create economic equality. The obsession of Marxism is all about economic equality. Of course, they want to abolish religion, all right, anything that creates some kind of class difference between, they don't want to see any kind of political difference between people, social difference. So that's an attainable kind of equality. All right, if you want to ensure economic equality among human beings, it is almost impossible, untenable, not untenable only, but it's, people cannot attain it. it's a mirage. It's like it's psychosis. You people cannot ensure like no political system can aspire to create an economic equality because uh, economics is the functions of individuals' difference. All right, it's all about productivity. It's all about management. It's all about it's all about production. And different people have different capacity economic, like not only in economics. For example, if you consider football, not everyone is a good football player. Football, I mean, in the global sense, not in America. Not everybody is equal soccer player, and you cannot ensure that. All right, not all people run fast the same. All right, some are naturally specially endowed, and attempting such kinds of equality would only destroy the fabrics of society. It doesn't make it vibrant, it doesn't make it organic, it doesn't make it grow. All right, because for example, well, let's continue with the example of the soccer or the football. All right, for if Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo becomes your national, like whichever country you are from, he gives you another, like what you call it, he gives you something that you cannot have, like uh, globally it's hard to find a kind of player like Messi, for example. All right, he's such a rarity. So Argentina, by having Messi in its national team, gets a lot of advantage to win. All right, it gives it such a big leverage to be competitive. For example, let's say in the coming World Cup, the fact that like any nation which has Messi would have such an advantage, all right, to win the World Cup. So what I'm trying to say is, for example, if you have smart business people in your nation, even though they make themselves, for example, the Americans make draw a lot of benefit out of Jeff Bezos. All right, he worked his air off to create Amazon. People complain. I'm not there is this labor union complaint. There is this or different kinds of complaint. But like imagine the kind of wealth, the kind of job opportunities, the kind of facilities, the kind of utilities that was brought into the United States because of Jeff Bezos, and there's so many talented people in the United States. So even though in the process Jeff Bezos makes himself such a billionaire, he can afford a lot of things. For example, he can have a temporary blockade in the middle of Manhattan when he brought his furnitures and so forth. But imagine the kind of value addition that he brought to that society. Not everybody can do that. If everybody can do that, people would have done it. You have to be especially endowed to do that. So what I'm trying to say is trying to achieve the kind of economic economic or either professional equality which was aspired by the socialist, the Marxist, is counterintuitive. Not only counterintuitive, it's counterproductive. It actually destroys the society's total productive capacity because it's in the specialization and in the in people excelling in a certain type kinds of things that that's actually the reason we join society. All right, like as I said yesterday, Aristotle has nicely coined this term called this statement or sentence called man is a political animal. Yeah, right. Man is a political animal. Why? What does it mean? It means he's less effective, less productive. All right. He cannot realize his full human potential by himself. All right. He cannot realize his full potential by himself. So he has to join a community. And the reason he joins a community is to some intended benefit. All right, it's to draw economic advantage, it's to draw political advantage, and that political economic advantage is not. equally generated, it's so to speak, and people, we don't contribute the same way, but some people contribute more, even though they benefit more by their contribution. They make the lives of so many people easy, cheaper. So it is like, what I'm trying to say is, equality is not like an identity. Like everybody should be equal, and everybody should take the same amount of pay. They have tried it in different type, socialism in its heyday, in its craziness, have attempted to, to use uh, the concept of equality, or a very crazy idea to ensure some kind of social harmony. But instead of creating social harmony, it creates social gloom, depression, right? A lot of problems. You cannot achieve it. At the end of the day, even for example, what's so funny is the socialists say, all right, society um, should share everything equally, but at the end of the day, it becomes the central plan so to be commanding on in national resources. All right, they consider themselves the intelligentsia, the watchman of the society, and they want to be there. And whether you look at it one way or the other, what's happening is certain few, few people are deciding what happens to a lot of people, and their contribution is not equal. All right, and according to their contribution, they benefit a lot. Starting from their security, starting from their housing, dwelling. They use a lot of government resources. They say like, I need it for job. At the end of the day, what happens is, even socialism turns out to be state capitalism. All right, it turns out to be state capitalism, where government bureaucrats would be deciding on so many economy activities. All right, yeah, what how that differs from the normal capitalism is, instead of people who have a political power controlling national resources, it would be citizens based on a fair game principle would be controlling a large amount of resources, Bezos, or Elon Musk, or Zuckerberg, and so forth. So what I'm trying to say is, the kind of economic equality that's aspired, it's just mystical. It's just a mental adventure. It doesn't have any. I mean, wishing is different from working. We can wish. Somebody says, "I wish I were a bird," but then that doesn't make him a bird. You can wish. You can wish. Uh, if human society is equal, if we are equally endowed, if we are even even if we are equally endowed, because we have this individual personality. Some are dedicated, some are frugal, some are are not frugal. Yeah, right. Some are thrifty, some are not, and so forth. So even the same, if even if you are equally talented, we are not equally tempered. We don't have the same temperament, and it's natural. I've heard people, all right, fighting with nature, or so to speak, with God, all right, why should somebody get more payment because he's smart? It's like some people have the audacity to argue like that, all right. Why would some people get, let's say, there is I mean, do you think Olympics would be Olympics without without letting people compete based on their talent? But talent is not also enough. It requires hard work. I heard, for example, if you want to compete for, let's say, in a certain Olympic game, it requires, controlling your food, your exercise, how you sleep, and so forth. And you have to do that for such in a continuous period of time, and so forth. You need the talent, you need the discipline, and it becomes interesting, and it's worth watching, because you see what people can achieve. You see what people can do, and how some people are talented, but also not only how what do you watch, for example, if you love soccer, or football, as we call it in the rest of the world, but in United States, And like one of people, even though they don't understand it, what they are looking at, what's gripping their attention is the discipline. All right, it's the discipline, it's the talent, and it's rarity also. All right, and it's inspirational value. That's what's getting people glued into the TV screen, right, fidgeting to watch a certain people whom they don't know, like people support clubs which they don't even know about. So um, I mean, we have to qualify what equality means. All right, the kind of equality that is proposed by the socialist is just nothing different from worshiping an idol. You may want you may say it's a god. All right, you would have a statue. All right, you may pray to it or blah blah, but it doesn't even drink water. All right, it doesn't even walk. Now we have robots which walk. They're not even what you call it. Maybe the AIs do a better job. But in ancient time, people deal with statues. It's instead of that statue, that idol becoming anything, it was just the the personification of their wish, their desire. The same way, the kind of socialist equality is it's what people wished. All right, it didn't have any reality. It doesn't have any basis, so you cannot bring it about. So when the American founding fathers say it's self, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, it doesn't mean that they're biologically, physically, chemically, all right, and talent-wise, in their contribution and in their ability to create wealth and so forth. They're equal. No, it doesn't mean that. And any society which tries to do that would only be those fools, if there are, all right, they're who would be cutting the food to fit the shoe. It doesn't work. That's not the kind of equality that the kind of equality that they refer to is the kind of freedom that I express, I tried to describe yesterday, which is that they are born free to dispose of their actions in their persons, in their property, or what you call it. John Locke says, what's proper to them, including their body, right? What's proper to them. They can go here, they can go there. They have that full disposition, all right? That full right to dispose themselves in a way they deem proper without asking leave or permission from any other person. That is the equality. That's where all people are equal. Understanding this is so fundamental because if I'm not mistaken, they think that people, even the politicians, all right, the scientists themselves, in my view, haven't made a successful distinction, didn't qualify what's meant by that equality. All right, it's not saying, all right, Marx has this chimeric idea to think that, all right, it goes to the extent you can be, all right, you can be, what you call it, what is that, people who had cows and cattle, like a shepherd. You can be a shepherd in the morning, all right, a philosopher at night, and blah blah. All right, he believed that the division of labor would be just disappearing from the world. They can go, he's been that stupid, as smart as he is. He has this phantasmagorical ideas about something crazy idea. So uh the kind of equality referred here is not that kind of equality, and people get disoriented. All right, I mean, inequality, if you listen to the American politics, Bernie Sanders or blah blah, the level of inequality, I mean, he goes to the extent we have to cap people's wealth, so that why do we need $8 billion, or why do you need $200 billion? It's not that he needs it. All right, he is the best manager of it. That the the excellence of capitalism is it goes to the most productive person, and in a $8 billion in the hands of Jeff Bezos, you give it to him today, he works it, and in 10 years, maybe he can double it. All right. And give it to the average Joe, all right. Maybe you might find him bankrupt, all right, homeless, begging for penny on the street. So, it's not about why, people are obsessed who has what, all right. But the system, the nature, all right, nature has, so to speak, as if, it makes it look like, to whom whom has more, it will be added on to him, kind of thing, because he's a better custodian. He multiplies it, all right. And the system has made it, the system, it's we live, I've been listening to this lecture and the guy was, discussing sociology, and he was, raising this question whether we have free will or not, all right. So, we live in this predefined world, all right. I'm not saying, we live in this parallel. I'm not that, I'm not that crazy, but we live in a predefined world, all right. It's not, the world is not to our liking. We cannot make it the way we want it to be. Our job is to discover it, all right. People have this, wishful, wishful sentimental idea, and instead of understanding the world and making the best use of it, what they want is our I've been listening to a documentary today morning or something, all right. And it's a 60-minute documentary I got about Chinese, an arrogant behavior and so forth, how they are dealing with the Philippines and so forth. So, I guess it's just I overheard it. I've been doing something else, just playing the record. And that guy says, what's the problem with the Chinese? The Chinese have this mindset, he said, if anyone is doing something that they don't want, all right, that person is a bad person. They don't question whether that person had the right to do it, all right. If they don't like it, that's wrong, all right. Their definition of wrong and right is their liking, their sentiment, their just, what you call it, their claim. That's it should be so. And everyone who's doing what they don't want is a bad person, all right. And so many people want to lead by such sentimental, and in my view, less developed, an idea that they want the world to be what they want it to be. But this world is, for example, I mean, it's a silly, right, nobody has been, brought to life because he asked, there there is no scenario whereby we say, I want to be born, I want to be born male, and I want to be born to this family, to this place, blah blah. You just, the system decides where you be. The system, by the system I mean, the natural system. So it's not up to us to question, right, I mean, it's one thing to do it metaphysically. Yeah, right. You can, what is that happen? I mean, what's reality? People debate, all right. Where do we come from? All right. Is there a God or not? Or this thing has been, is this thing, where did it come from? The sky, the stone, the universe, the Mars, the blood. Where did they, you can just, you can be quizzical, inquisitive, just, for the sake of mental gymnastics, you can do it. But you can't live in this world by, demanding your wish. This is not the secret. I mean, there is a, wave, blah blah, make your will, you should make your wish list manifest, and the universe listens it, and kind of coded radio signal, blah blah, and it would stream it. No, it doesn't work like that. All right. So, people demand, all right, but demand doesn't mean anything. All right, it's what matters is we understand its, makeup, its constitution, and make the best use of it. It is almost, um, I was, in the natural science, in physics and so forth. There is one, analogy that I like the most. You know, like, Science discovers, all right? Science discovers. It doesn't create the laws. Like, gravity is 9.8, like meter per second, even though it differs, all right? Like, in London, it's a little bit. So if you want to cheat people, some gold might be weighing less somewhere, I don't know how to explain it, but they say there is a little bit difference between, I mean, it's not uniform, it's not uniform across the world. They say, I don't know, I haven't tested it, but regardless, it's 9.8 meter per second, more or less, or it averages to that. All right. And the duty of science is to discover that and to make use of it, to calculate the trajectory of, your whatever, projectiles, like how you fly your plane, how you land it, blah blah. Your job is to discover that and make use of it. Your job is not to say, why does God put gravity here, or why does nature put gravity here. I mean, good luck if that means anything. So, all right, but it doesn't mean anything. You wouldn't change one thing about that. All right, like Jesus said. All right, you can't even turn one of your hair gray or black. So why you worry about it? Some people, people want to just immerse themselves, encumber themselves with every other nonsense. All right, that's in my view misallocation, the resource misallocation. All right, focus on what you can do. Focus on what you can change, and all right. So science, the duty of science is to discover what's possible. What one of the things that amazes me is, if you think about it, helicopter was not invented, for 6,000 years. It was invented, when was it invented? Just 150 years ago, or maybe 130 years ago. It has not been invented, but it, the dynamics, the natural principles, they always have been there. Have someone discuss, understand the material engineering, the aerodynamic principles. People could have brought it back, into existence maybe 1,000 years ago. Some people are suggest Da Vinci have tried or whatever, but we haven't seen any person, at least before 500 years, trying to invent helicopter. But it has always been there. So the duty of, or the job of science, is to discover those useful scientific principles and discover them, understand them, and use them in a way that benefit humanity. All right, improve life, improve society, improve transportation, improve healthcare, and so forth and so forth. So that's the job, the purpose of science, and the same thing applies. That. That's true in the natural science. So, for example, the idea of computer science, it exists always. All right, I, you can, if people understood, they could have created computer. 5,000 years ago, they could have created it. All right. They didn't create it because they didn't discover the law. The dynamics was always there because the earth is the same. All right. The periodic table was always there. The conductor, the semiconductors, blah, blah, they always been there. Just people didn't discover them. The same way, when we talk about equality, we cannot put our wish list. All right. Did you know that, for example, light travels only, what is that? 3.8 million, 3 point, what's the speed of light? All right, 2.8 million, uh, 3.8 something, I was going to Google it, but that would be a distraction. It 2.8 million miles or meters per second, but Mother Nature dictated that. You cannot be faster than light, even though some people are now arguing, there are some technologies to go faster than light, all right? But, even still, that has got its own limitation, all right? It's not, what you call it. People talk about quantum physics, blah, blah, but, well, uh, I don't think, it's quantum is a concept. I don't think it's a reality, all right? And so what I'm trying to say is there are restrictions, there are natural laws, there are fixtures, all right, which we cannot, we can wish them away, but we cannot push them away. There is a fundamental difference between wishing things away and pushing them away. And the most dangerous thing is in politics when you try to bring your wish into reality and with that wish is physically impossible, all right, realistically impossible. That's the foundation of political radicalism. When you wish something, all right, when you just aspire for something that's not supported by facts on the ground, the science, the biology, the physics, the realities on the ground, you wish them because you have been educated, inculcated, or nurtured your mind. When you do that, all right, uh, it becomes the foundation for radicalism because you want to bring something which cannot be brought. Therefore, the only alternative you have is forcing people to behave, act, and operate as per your wish instead of as per their volition, proclivity, or their inclination. You want to coerce people. You want to dictate them, and that's in my view, that's the foundation of radicalism. So when we say people are equal, we cannot assume that they are technically, physically, biologically, chemically, all right, gender-wise and so forth, equal. They are not. I mean, we can see it with we don't need, what you call it. Uh, we don't need sophisticated laboratory discovery to understand that people are not equal. All right, in some sense, yeah. People say it's nurture. I mean, the same people from the same family to the same school under the same circumstances and so forth, they go their separate ways. All right, people are. I mean, they are signed. All right, they are some people are destined by their biology, destined by their it's like you cannot. It's if it is so, all right, what you call it? How many people who goes to school, go to university, or, or how many people who graduated with first degree goes for their masters and so forth? I mean, the material condition, the circumstance, the historical, they can be the same, but they always ended up different. All right, no two people turn out to be the same, even in identical twins. So I don't think it takes rocket science to if you open your mind instead of being ideologue or dogmatic, and that's the one of the problems that we have is people say, all right, they state their wishes as principles. All right, just it's not something trivial, by the way. All right, people can state their wishes as principles, and they've been doing that for generations. They state their wishes as principle, but principle has nothing to do with your wish. All right, they say it's nurturing, it's this, it's, but you can test it in time and again under all kinds of controlled environment. But people are not the same. They are inherently different, and not only they are inherently different, their difference is advantage. All right, we need all kinds of professions, we need all kinds of people, and society performs better when all those differences are allowed to interoperate amongst themselves based on human free will. All right, it's not based on some dictation. So, I know I dwelled on the idea of equality a little bit, but it's very important because people have notions. All right, they see, for example, if you go in the United States, you can say that 1% of the the richest person own, let's say, 50% of the assets in the country. But what is that 50% of asset? It's only in their name. All right, take Jeff Bezos. Oh, like, I'm calling his name aloud, but I hope you don't mind. I mean, take any rich person. All right, he wakes up he sleeps on one bed. all right, like, he sleeps on one bed, all right. He dresses with just, like, one shirt, one pant, a shoe, all right. He drives one car a day. Right? That's unless he is some childish guy, all right. He just go out, test his car, and come back and park it and take out the next car. Like, I wonder, have you seen those guys? Like, they have this big garage, like it's like filled with all kinds of sport cars. I don't know what to do, what they do with that, right? Like, as a collector, it might be an obsession, but like, its utility is almost zero. It's almost the same. Like, if you are one sport car, it's one sport car. I mean, all right, you can only eat a plate of meal in the morning, in the like, at lunch. Maybe if you are a dinner guy, at dinner. All right, like, what I'm trying to say is, uh, Jeff Bezos, on his personal consumption daily. All right. Now, like, there is his security, blah blah blah. That's another thing. But like, his personal consumption is not different from the average American, or like, the average American. He just ate, like, a plate of meal, wear, like, a piece of cloth, all right, sleep on a piece of bed, all right, and maybe, like, he lives in a very, like, blah blah mansion. But what I'm trying to say is, compared to his total wealth, what he spends on himself personally is very minuscule, all right. And like, the greater part of his wealth is employing so many people, producing so many products, like, financing so many services, and it's benefiting a whole lot of people whom he has no idea. He doesn't even know them. All right. So people be obsessed with what he has, but like, what he has it because he's the, like, if, especially if you consider it under, like, optimized free market environment, he's having it because he's the best custodian of it. All right. So you can be obsessed with it. You can have a wish list that everybody, like, some kind of system come and took all that wealth and distributed in a fair manner, blah blah, to the society. But that's your wish. All right. It doesn't have any bearing with the reality. So we have to understand that the kind of equality referred here is the kind of liberty equality. That the fact that all men are created equal doesn't mean that they have the same kind of talent. Rather, all men are created equal in such a way that they can dispose of the what, like, what's proper to them, according to, like, I'm using the parlance of John Locke. They can dispose of what's proper to them without asking permission or leave from any other person. That's their natural state. So the kind of equality referred is this kind of equality, and this is the foundation of Americanism. This is the foundation of the end of history. This is the final political discovery that human beings can make. I mean, people can wish. I've listened to professors, right? Very steeped, like, experienced professors who question this. But like, what's the point of getting mad? It's like, what you call it. Uh like, a long time ago, I in this management book, like, when I take a management course, in the, what you call it, in the introduction or preface of that book, I read something. I searched for it, like, it was what you call it, the old textbook, like, this paper. Actually, it's not paperback, it's hardcover. um so in the introduction part, or like, in the preface of it, it says, like, it's a management book, and like, the American managers are having this arrogance. All right, he's alleging, all right, the author of the book. Yeah, like, the American managers have this arrogance, and that arrogance is, like, I mean, instead of changing what they can, all right, they want to change, like, they want to order everything. So he brought some kind of, like, allegory, an example. So there is this lighthouse, all right, on the sea, and there is an American admiral of an American warship, all right, and he's coming, and like, he saw the lighthouse. I might not be exact about the history, like, I know the history, the account of things, but like, just the sense of it is what matters. So this admiral saw this lighthouse, and he just picked the radio and told the lighthouse, "All right, this is U.S. Navy, blah blah. This is Admiral, like so and so. Change course. All right." He's ordering the lighthouse to change course, and the lighthouse responded back, I'm not changing my course, you change your course. And they go back and forth, and finally he says, I'm gonna blow you out of this ocean. This is United States Navy. And the lighthouse responded, I'm a lighthouse, you cannot blow me, or you shouldn't blow me out. And it's not the lighthouse which should change its course, even if, it's an American admiral. It's maybe I don't know, it's a aircraft carrier, whatever, and it might be the most powerful shape, and it can literally blow that lighthouse out of existence or out of the ocean. But that's not what's needed. All right, that's a lighthouse. It is the ship that should change its course, that should adapt, that should change. All right, but you can be arrogant. You can be that, what you call it, stupid, to demand to change things that cannot be changed. And people have this, I don't say it's audacity, but arrogance, that they're so stiff-necked, instead of understanding what it is and leveraging that. All right, leveraging that. Archimedes, I like that guy. All right, he said, give me, all right, a fulcrum, a focal point in such a long lever, I can turn the earth. It's the principle, all right? The lever of the arm. Yeah, I mean, the arm of the lever times by the force, it can, as you increase the leverage, even the, the smallest amount of force can turn the earth, all right? Why? It's a principle. It's the, all right? So in no point, all right, crying over a spilled milk, no point, complaining about the inherent inequality of people. How do we maximize it, and how do we define it, is the most important thing. So when they say all men are created equal, we should be careful, and we should beware to understand that the kind of equality referred here is that kind of equality where everyone is born free. All right, everyone is born free, and they are endowed by their creator some unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That means, in other words, they can they can live their life, all right, as they see proper, without asking leave or permission from other people. Now, there are negators, all right, naysayers, and they can say, you cannot do that, all right, you cannot do that. That's the, you cannot do that because, you know uh there are some people who can coerce other people, using military. I mean, for example, Trump has just grabbed, Maduro out of his bedroom, all right, so Maduro cannot do. That's social. That's what comes later, all right. That's, we are talking about the fundamental principle, the state of nature. How do people find themselves? All right. Therefore, that's what, the most important point. That's the focus. And so they are equal. We all are equal in that regard. And understanding that is what you call it, so important. We have to understand that our equality is in terms of our natural freedom. We can choose right or wrong. All right. We can decide. All right. We can think. We have our own idea, we develop ideas. That's naturally endowed. All right. It's life, it's liberty, it's the pursuit of happiness. You just can't dispose of your body. You, you're what's proper to you. I like, the Lockean expression. All right. What's proper to you, without asking leave or permission from other people, at the state of nature. All right. Of course, as I said, people can coerce you, and that's now when it comes, the talk or the like the point of political power. All right, if people are born free, all right, nobody can force them, to somehow curtail their freedom without the proper justification. All right, and um, it's now the problem is what what the problem the rest of the world believes, all right, with the right amount of organization, with the right amount of you can be, for example, the more organized people, um, actually some, for example, some people don't know, the socialists openly say the mass is unconscious. They have this expression like false consciousness. That means the people don't know what's good for them, kind of thing. That's why they need what you call it. That's why they consider themselves to be the vanguard parties. All right, even if people are born free, they can choose and so forth. They don't know what's good for them. They cannot decide for themselves. All right, they are not that smart. They are not that sophisticated. Therefore, uh, the idea that people are born free is some kind, for them it's some kind of uh, metaphysical or moral concept. All right, you have to respect the inherent, that like equal liberty of people, the need to respect that, the need to honor that, which is the foundation of I mean, what the American Declaration of Independence is, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal. I mean, and they are endowed by their creator some unalienable rights, among which is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But there are people who don't believe that. All right, you are not it is who, it's some people for sort, what you call it, a host of reasons doesn't accept that. All right, um and that's what gives rise to government principles. Not only government principles, but you can choose what you want, but you cannot choose the consequence of what you choose. All right, somebody may decide not to go to school. All right, but people can choose whatever they want, but they cannot choose the consequence. It's like that's what the question: are we free? All right, kind of thing, at least metaphysically speaking. uh so um what I'm trying to say is honoring this natural state of freedom. All right, honoring this natural state of freedom is just sentimental for some people. All right, because they come up with a number of reasons for that. All right, why they believe so. I think I shall make what you um let me make that the discussion for the next video, because if I started it now, uh, it won't be going I have only 7 minutes kind of thing, or 4 minutes, 6 minutes. So let me postpone it to the second video. But what I was trying to say was, it becomes um, a decision point in the history of humanity. All right, what's the significance of understanding and respecting this? All right, it's not like, for example, when the Americans say man is born free and government is there to protect this right. For the so-called realist politicians, all right, that's moral sentimentalism. All right, power doesn't work like that. But the foundational principle of the Americans, all right, says no, 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 no. This is not moral sentimentalism. The moment you trespass that, All right, you create the weakest nation in the world, and the moment you respect that, even though it might make you look like you are sentimentalist, it would be the difference between the polar world that the United States now leading, all right, or the United States becoming just another job, all right, just another country, all right. That becomes so significant. I'll be discussing that in the next session. Uh, that's good old ways point, the first video. Thank you for listening. Catch you in the next video.